This land has given many worthy sons to the Kazakh people. Even in the middle of the 19th century, there was an active development of the industry and agriculture of this region of Kazakhstan. Here, ancient craftsmanship that was passed down from generation to another over many centuries is preserved. Hello, this is Terra Inkognita project. My name is Anton Fedorov, and I have come to the Kostanay region. The Kostanay region was formed in 1936. The territory of this region is twice the size of a country like Hungary and is 196,000 square kilometers. In the region, there are about 5,000 lakes, primarily fish, which is the third part of all lakes in Kazakhstan. The natural landscapes of the region are beautiful and diverse. Forest steppe, semi-desert, and desert. On the territory of Kostanay region, there are about 1,500 archaeological monuments, the oldest of which, according to the historians, are about 7,000 years old. I will tell you about the ancient history of this region later. Right now, I want to talk about the administrative center of the region, the city of Kostanay. It was formed by immigrants who half a century ago, on the orders of the Russian Emperor Alexander, arrived here to make settlements that would serve as bridges between Asia and Russia. Kostanay became such a bridge. The history of Kostanay goes back to 1868 year. At that time, it became necessary to create a large industrial and production center. The settlers came here and made a settlement here. The city immediately began to grow rapidly, and at the beginning of the 20th century became a major trading center for the region. Kostanay is described in historical sources from the beginning of the last century. The city already had schools, shops, and central market. The population of Kostanay exceeded 25,000 people. The city was multinational. Kazakhs and Russians, Bukharians and Poles, Bashkirs and Tatars, as well as other peoples lived here side by side. Many caravan routes converged here. This is where artisans worked. The entrepreneurial stratum of the population flourished, and local fairs were famous throughout the Ural. The townspeople grew rich. The city developed and merchants' houses grew. By the way, the luxurious homes of the local rich people faithfully serve Kostanay until now. The building of the Kostanay Regional Local History Museum is an architectural monument of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Initially, this house belonged to the Yaushev brothers. There were merchants' rows and storage facilities here. An interesting fact is that even then, the architects used new trends in the construction and design of buildings, and therefore, being representatives of the advanced part of the population, the Yaushev brothers decided to build this house in the Art Nouveau style. In 1915, it was given to the regional museum. This museum has a collection of interesting exhibits and historical articles from different periods of the life of the region. These include unique things that witnessed the most important events that took place on this earth hundreds of years ago. There are more than 130,000 museum items in the museum's repository collections. One of the unique items from the time of the Jungar battle on display is the helmet of Aykbay Batyr, an outstanding commander, participant of the Jungar battle. It was given to us by his sixth-generation descendant from Sarikol. This relic was passed down from one generation to another. The helmet is more than 300 years old, from the 18th century. In just 70 years from the very first day of the establishment of Kostanay, when there was nothing at all on this land, a large gold mining plant was built in the city. Mining industry became the main industry in the region. At that time, more than 50 wind and mechanical mills were operating in the Kostanay region. A significant part in the economy of the region was played by a sawmill, a mechanical workshop for the repair of agricultural machinery, a brick factory, a meat processing plant, a printing house, and a power station. There were 12 industrial artels and a variety of woodworking, sewing, confectionery, shoe, chemical, and pottery workshops. In terms of the number of residents, in improvement and in rapid growth, our city was ahead of the cities of the northern Kazakhstan and even Russian provinces. Our city of Kostanay was compared with the American city of Chicago in terms of tremendous growth in the number of inhabitants, in improvement that it was rapidly developing, and industry and trade were being developed. There are pages of special pride in the history of the Kostanay region. During World War II, the civilian population of the region, mostly women, elderly people, and teenagers, worked 16 hours a day to be able to send bread, meat, and butter to the battlefields. A special place in the collection of the museum is occupied by the Military Hall of Fame of the residents of Kostanay region, who participated in the Second World War. 70,000 people went off to war from this region, and half of them did not come back home. These people made an enormous contribution to the common cause of victory, and Kostanay people are very proud of the feat of their ancestors. And there is a lot to be proud of. In the winter of 1941, a separate rifle brigade was formed in Kostanay, which went through baptism of fire in exhausting defensive and offensive battles on the northwestern front. In September 1943, the 150th Rifle Division was formed on its basis, which liberated the Baltic states from the Nazis and participated in the battle for Berlin. Continuing my acquaintance with the history of the Kostanay region, I came across a curious exhibit in the museum. My attention was attracted to the jewelry of local craftsmen. I was always interested in ancient crafts, especially when it came to manual labor. Kazakh jewelry is a brilliant heritage of talented craftsmen of the past and present. Kazakh folk jewelry has a special place in the history of the national culture. Its origins go back centuries. I always wondered, how could a craftsman 100, 200 years ago not having modern improvised means and tools create such unique things?
Особое место в культуре казахского народа занимает ювелирное искусство. Здесь представлено...
Jewelry art occupies a special place in the culture of the Kazakh people. Here is a collection of jewelry. It is presented wrist and chest women's jewelry. Our region was famous for its craftsmen, master zergers, jewelers, who worked on their own, passed down their skills from generation to generation. Here's the jewelry for uki ayak headdress. They are unique for the owl's claws, set in silver. The owl was considered a sacred bird among the nations, protected from evil spirits.
Когти филина. Филин считалась священной птицей у народов, защищала от злых духов.
The Kostanay region has always been famous for its artisans. The local craftsmen made dishes and household items from wood, leather, and stone that were in demand far beyond the region's borders. And now I want to introduce you to one of the followers of ancient traditions. Tanat Khan Bozhakov worked in a small workshop almost on the outskirts of Kostanay. In his hands, a common tree turns into a real piece of art. Tanat Khan Bozhakov is known not only in his region but also far beyond its borders. The craftsman works here repeatedly presented at Kazakhstan's and international exhibitions.
С детства увлекаюсь резьбой по дереву. Отец у нас сельский кузнец, ремесленник. Он и шорник, и ювелир, и обувщик.
I have been fond of wood carving since childhood. Our father was a village blacksmith, a craftsman, and he was a saddler and a jeweler and a shoemaker. I have been doing probably for 40 years. For the last 20 years, I did not have much time in the village, but since I moved to the city in 1999, I had a burst. I like doing this. Recently, national wooden dishes, a round platter, istau, have been in real demand. I have my own technology in making these things. I make them out of birch. Birch must be carefully picked up. 1.5 meters from the ground, can't be higher than that. The second and third cut. Birch is a very good tree, naturally dried. I've been drying and carving it for more than a year. I work from morning till night for 10 or 12 hours. I do not notice the passage of time. It just flies when I'm here.
Я занимаюсь с утра до вечера, по 10-12 часов, я не замечаю время, которое здесь пролетает.
You can watch the work of Tanat Khan Bozhakov endlessly. There's a feeling that the master is carrying on a dialogue with a tree. Knife is the main tool in the hands of the artisan. The master admits that tree preparation takes longer in the creation of any product. It should be soaked and then dried. The process takes several months. After that, the tree is easy to process.
Дерево, оно само подсказывает, что делать и как делать. Понимаете, здесь иной раз, когда берешь и даже не знаешь, что ты...
That tree itself suggests what to do and how to do it, you know. Here, sometimes, when you take it, you do not know what you are going to make of it. Then it turns out by itself, like beer mugs, scoops of kumis, or istal. Of course, you put your heart in it. The tree is warm and pleasant. Right now, I'm polishing, and it is even hard to believe that it was a piece of some type of wood. Now it is polished like plastic. You process it to such an extent that you can soak it later. The more carefully the wood is processed, the better it is. The dishes that I soak in linseed oil that was specially refined, which has neither smell nor taste.
Тщательно обработанное дерево, вот именно посуда, я пропитываю льняным маслом, специально очищенным, которое не имеет ни запаха, ни вкуса.
Of course, looking at the master's jewelry work, I also wanted to touch the ancient craft and try to make something with my own hands.
Это что вы сейчас вырисовываете?
Ну, это вот такая ложка.
Угу. И мне предстоит ее сделать.
Ну, попробуйте.
Вообще, я вам скажу, что журналист должен быть универсальным человеком. Мы должны уметь делать все.
Ну, конечно. От того, что умеет, никогда плохо не будет. Вот, допустим, вот такой вот формой.
What do you draw now? It's a spoon. So I'm about to make it. Well, try it. Generally, I will tell you that a journalist must be universal. We must be able to do everything. Well, of course, it won't hurt to know how to do things. Well, let's say that this form is the simplified version. And how do you work this tool? I'm going to show you now. Let's take this knife first. Now you need to slowly cut the contour. See? If you noticed, all knives I have are of the same style. The handles are made to fit in my hand, like this. But be very careful, because the knives are like blades. Well, thanks. I'm going to try. Try it. I think a few months of training, and I, too, would learn something here. Indeed, it is very easy to work with the material. The knife cuts off pieces of wood like cheese.
Я думаю, несколько месяцев тренировок, и я бы тоже кое-чему научился здесь. Действительно, с материалом работает очень легко. Нож отрезает, словно от сыра, куски дерева.
И для чего именно?
And then came the crucial moment. The master will evaluate the work of the student. Yeah, well, that's what I got. Well, sort of, but it needs to be smooth, need practice. Any tool that you're trying to do something with has its own approach. See, I'm working with one finger right now. I simply push with the index finger. This is safety, first of all, and secondly, a cut is precise. You can't cut off the excess because the knife is under your control.
У него свой подход есть. Видите, я сейчас работаю одним пальцем. Вот этим указательным пальцем я просто толкаю. Это безопасность, во-первых. И, во-первых, точно идет срез. Листья ты уже не отрежешь, потому что идет контроль этого ножа. Ну, знаете, это традиция испокон веков, с поколения в поколение передавалась. И я думаю, что это будет неправильно, если мы забудем. Мы же и так чуть не...
You know, this tradition has been passed down since the dawn of time, and I think it would be wrong for us to forget. We almost forgot, but it is all now being revived. The fact is that we, the Kazakhs in particular, did not have the same porcelain. We used copper dishes and used wooden dishes. Even things that I'm doing now. Some people ask me, I make a bucket with a ring. Why it has a ring? But it is because there were no cabinets and yurts, so they would hang it on branch stubs to dry. I think the time has come. We must regenerate things. There is a demand, there is a desire to learn, and it is necessary to show the generation. Do you understand? It's time to regenerate.
Учиться и показывать надо поколению, понимаете? Это же время такое, что надо возрождать сейчас.
Ну, спасибо вам за мастер-класс.
Ну вот.
Well, thank you for the masterclass. Here's the approximate shape of the spoon. Wow, you always have a full house of spoons. If you work for a week, you will learn. Thank you, Rahmet Aga. The Kostanay region gave many worthy sons to the Kazakh people. But one name is of particular pride among the inhabitants of the region. Their countryman became the founder of the Kazakh written literature and an enlightener who made education more accessible to all segments of the population. His name was Ibray Altınsarin. Understanding the scope of Ibray Altınsarin's personality, one wonders, how did this man manage to accomplish such a great thing? After all, the fate did not spoil little Ibray since he was a boy. He soon became an orphan. His grandfather took him. When the grandson was 9 years old, the Aksakal sent him to get an education. The boarding school was intended for the education of lower-level officials from the local population who would speak Russian and would be followers of Tsarism. However, education gave the young Ibray a different understanding of the world and brought him closer to his own people and the problems of his future.
Ibray Altınsarin поставил перед собой задачу.
Ibray Altınsarin set himself the task of raising the level of enlightenment of his people. He considered the main duty of every person to contribute something for the sake of his homeland. And Ibray Altınsarin focused on not only the educational process, but also labor education. In 1883, he opened a vocational school in Turgay.
В 1903 году в Тургае он открывает ремесленное училище.
However, teaching activities of the young teacher were accompanied by many difficulties. He literally had to solve not only educational issues, but also economic ones. Funding, construction management, recruitment, creation of educational materials, and educational work, all this fell on the shoulders of a young man. And sometimes he had to conduct training in very difficult conditions. Approximately in the premises like this, Ibray Altınsarin began to share knowledge with his students. These were small classes, and the number of students did not exceed 10 to 12 people. And yet, obsessed with a desire to share knowledge and pass it on to the younger generation of his people, Ibray Altınsarin takes the education system to a whole new level. In addition to rhetorical knowledge, he gives his students the skills of various professions, and this bears its fruit.
Ibray Altınsarin получает письмо от директора этого профессионально-технического.
Ibray Altınsarin receives a letter from the director of this vocational school. The leather prepared by your student was approved at the Siberian Ural exhibition. The soap brewed by your students was preferred by local housewives than our private factory produces, and the oil brought down by your students was so strong that it endured postal shipment to St. Petersburg.
Было настолько прочным, что выдержали почтовую пересылку в Санкт-Петербург.
Ibray Altınsarin was such a versatile person that he was not limited to teaching activities. He himself developed and wrote textbooks. For the sake of Kazakh children, he translated Russian literary works. In addition, Altınsarin is known as the author of numerous fables, fairy tales, and stories.
Открывая школы, Ibray Altınsarin обязательно...
Opening schools, Ibray Altınsarin mandatorily supplied them with textbooks, pupils, and in open schools, Ibray Altınsarin even taught the first lessons himself. The dream of Altınsarin, our countryman, the first teacher, the teacher of teachers, came true, because now there are all opportunities provided for children to receive education.
Сейчас имеются все возможности для детей получить образование.
Iberai Altinsarin made an invaluable contribution to the development and education of his people. He translated the works of the classics of world literature into Kazakh language in order to make them accessible to all segments of the population. During his relatively short life, he died at 48, Iberai Altinsarin managed to write his name in the history of world education and to give people the most important thing, which is knowledge and hope for the future. After learning about the life, biography, and work of Iberai Altinsarin, I once again made sure that the person does not have an impossible task, that he works hard and despite any difficulties goes towards reaching his goal. I want to introduce you to a woman who lives in Kostanay, and I personally feel deep respect for and admiration about her life path. This woman who dances gracefully, even when in a wheelchair, is Aruna. Her life story may well become the basis for the script of a dramatic film. Up to the age of 17, she was growing up like all normal children, but at this age, Aruna suffered a spinal injury, after which she could never walk again. Long rehabilitation courses, all sorts of treatment methods did not bring results. The girl had to learn to live again. For years, Aruna could not accept the idea that she would never walk again. What this woman had to endure is even difficult to say. But one day, she decided to be happy no matter what. Today, even a completely healthy person could envy her life. Aruna found her purpose in helping people with disabilities. Together with their spouse, they opened a rehabilitation center for those who need help.
Вот, у нас здесь находится тренажерный зал. Здесь наши люди с инвалидностью.
Here we have a gym. People with disabilities can come here and spend the whole day here, from morning to evening, while taxi service is working. Here we have a lot of sports clubs. Aruna, as I see, you have so many medals. Please tell me, what are these for? These medals are of our team. Personal ones are kept at home. These are team performances, seated volleyball, table tennis, when our teams go to sporting events or national team, and they already play in a team.
Сидячий волейбол, это вот настольный теннис, когда вот наши команды выезжают на спортивные мероприятия, уже сборная наша, и они уже выступают в общекомандном составе.
The Umets Nadezhda Public Foundation, headed by Aruna Zhaksagulova, has a rehabilitation center where people with disabilities can receive comprehensive assistance. It is equipped with a gym, medical room, class, and applied craftsmanship room. But the most important thing, the woman says, is psychological help to a person who is alone with a problem. In the center, people do not feel lonely, and this in many ways helps them to come back to life.
В свое время мои родители, они сделали подобный центр у меня дома. И они старались, чтобы я восстановилась как можно быстрее.
At one time, my parents made a similar center at our home, as they wanted me to recover as soon as possible and to begin to walk again. They were waiting for improvements, so I had a lot of support. When I went for additional internship in Japan, to the States, to the countries of Central Asia, I came back and I thought that we should start a center like that, because not every person who finds himself in such a life situation has a family. Someone may have no parents, or not everyone has such good friends who will provide support. There are lonely people, and some just have a psychological atmosphere that relatives themselves and the person, him or herself, may experience. Therefore, we began to think about needing to establish such a center.
Родные переживают, и сам человек. Поэтому вот такая потребность в открытии такого центра, она вот мысленно у нас появилась.
For many members of a public association, Aruna herself is a prime example. She leads a very active lifestyle. She participated in wheelchair race, plays curling, is engaged in ballroom dancing, and is engaged in many other areas. A woman admits that she has changed her worldview herself, and she also teaches others how to do that, to be strong and to love life.
Я совершенно здоровый человек. Вчера бегала, все четко знала, в каком направлении двигаться.
I was a completely healthy person. I was able to run yesterday, knew exactly in which direction to go, and in a second got injured. And as a result, I could not get up. Therefore, I perceive this world through the eyes of a perfectly wealthy person and with the eyes of a person who has already fallen into this situation. When there is such a center and someone comes to see, no one moralizes them. No one says to them, you have to do like this. They come and see, wow, they're great dancers. They see with their own eyes the master of sport and sport dancing of international class in the Republic of Kazakhstan. They see tennis players. They see community activists who speak from rostrums. And in reality, people think, look, after all, this person's situation is much more complicated than mine. And yet, he found himself, and he finishes his second higher education, and he's already working. He's sought after. He has a family. So why am I turning mushy? And this is how it helps a person to somehow cheer up himself and move on.
И вот это как раз помогает человеку как-то встряхнуться и двигаться дальше.
Aruna considers her husband to be the main inspirational figure of all undertakings. They have been together with Hussein Gali for more than 20 years. For them, helping people with disabilities has become a cause of life.
Вот когда они приходят, а потом через какое-то время мы уже видим совершенно другого человека.
That's when they come, and then after some time we see a completely different person. Their eyes sparkle, and they clearly know what they want to achieve in life, and thus this is our mission. If we see that a person is not lost, not stuck at some stage, and moves higher and higher, achieving certain success, this is our mission.
Выше и выше, достигает определенных успехов, в этом и заключается наша миссия.
Well, I continue my journey around Kostanay region, and I want to tell you about one of the most beautiful places in the region.
–
50 kilometers from Kostanay, there is a place amazing in its natural beauty, a pine forest. This forest stretches for 45 kilometers. There are several lakes here, the water in which is rich in silicic acid, and it is believed that the mud from these bodies of water has healing properties. Since Soviet times, this place has been very popular for recreation and treatment. In the second half of the last century, scientists conducted a study here of a lake filled with mineral water, and it was then that its miraculous properties were revealed. Huge reserves of underground mineral waters were also found here. Since then, people come here to improve their health and simply admire the local natural beauty. Conifer therapy is believed to be one of the best ways to deal with various diseases. It is estimated that no more than 300 bacteria are contained in a single cubic meter of coniferous forest, that is, the air here is practically sterile. Its purification in the pine forest is due to volatile substances that pine disperses. In addition, pine essential oils, oxidized by oxygen, produce ozone, which has healing properties. The unique pine air is especially useful for people with various respiratory diseases, including pulmonary tuberculosis. It can be said that pine forest is a kind of giant natural inhaler. And this wonderful place is located just a 30-minute drive from Kostanay.
За несколько дней знакомства с Костанайской областью я узнал интересную...
After several days of exploring the Kostanay region, I learned an interesting history of this region, met with ancient crafts, and enjoyed the unique beauty of this region. If you want to do the same, welcome. You will not regret it. It was Terra Inkognita project. My name is Anton Fedorov, and I'll see you in the next episode.